Alright, what is up everybody? So, this is not going to be like a rage vid, like I kind of said in my last one, I was like kind of like angry about it. I'm going to be more chill about this one because I know the Anime Guardians team does actually listen for the most part. They actually do like they put out high quality stuff. It's just they need to get out of the macro fest stuff, right? So, let me just get into it. Let me get into the nitty-gritty thick of it real quick. In the current state of Anime Guardians, they are, for the most part, not really any different from how Anime Last Stand operates. Now, they do also, I do want to make this a point, they do actually put out the unit packs. They do. But they have much higher value, especially like with the limit breakers, than anything in Anime Last Stand, but it is still just as sort of scummy. You know, putting a single unit at a price tag of $20 is pretty insane. Does give you some value, but it's really bad still. Like, those should not be in there, in my opinion. I think it puts a bad light and makes it seem a little bit greedy. But that's not the main thing I want to talk about. The main thing I want to talk about is how everything is macroed. There is nothing in this game at all. You cannot name me a single thing in this game that is not either macroable in some way or required to be macroable to be even a game mode worth doing. For example, the tournaments game mode, which was seeming to be the first thing that they added that wasn't a macro, turned into a macro because you're going to need all the 1% drops from the Boros items. You're going to need the Boros tokens, and you're also now going to need the different cups for all the different little backdrops you can give to your units. Then the same also goes for the Chainsaw Man event. The Chainsaw Man event is completely macro, is the best way to get trait rules, and the same goes for the World Boss event, but that's mainly just due to power creep. The Chainsaw Man, the World Boss event was originally not really all too macroable, but it eventually, within like a day or two, it was found how to macro it the best way, and that's what it turned into no matter what, right? And that's the problem with this game. Everything is coming down to a macro because you need to get a percent drop, or you need to do a quest where you need to do something a ton of times. The same goes for the tower game mode. It is purely all macro. It is. There's no thought behind the tower game mode at all. Same with the raids, same with the world bosses, same with the world lines. Everything in this game is required to macro. Everything is. Sure, you can play the game without macroing it, but to be honest, unless you're a masochist, you're not running a stage that is a 0.9% drop for a scroll on regular difficulty and a 7.7% drop for that same scroll on on the highest difficulty, just to then get another quest that you're going to have to do it 50 more times manually. So you might as well macro it. There's nothing there that's fun and enjoyable in any way. Case in point, this entire video, because Anime Last Stand is the same way. It is all macro this, macro that, and very little actual player interactive gameplay in any sense. And that's not fun for a tower defense game. Sure, people do like to macro for resources and items, but when the newest units you drop come out and there's literally, like, you just place down units, nuke the entire map, no matter what the gimmick is, and then you're done. Because that's the problem. I don't think is with the units being overpowered. I think the game just needs to be scaled better to accommodate them, and the quest lines and the obtainments need to be fixed and changed, or at least updated, so that there's like player thought, like where you have to go run at least different stages, or you need to go do certain quests, find things around the maps that they build, instead of just letting your players go in and then just instantly start macroing, rather than explore and look at what you built and actually view the characters as something that aren't just number machines going up, right? And that's really what it has come down to, you know what I mean? So I would like to give both my opinion in this video and suggestions on what the team can do to improve to make the game more fun, as well as what my viewers think as well. They also all basically had the same sentiment as me and the same ideas for the most part, because the game really just has one underlying feature, and that's the macro slop that it is, right? So we're going to immediately address that issue. The macroing in Anime Guardians is out of hand. Like, dude, literally getting every item in the game is macroed. The 3 new units in the game, you just macro or play the event, the same exact event, where you beat it in like a minute each time, 50 different times, if not higher if you get unlucky with the scroll drops. For me, I had to do each one around 70 times on average, because it took me around 20 runs, even on the highest difficulty, to get the 7% scroll drop. And that's just the reality of it, right? Like, it's just, some people are going to get luckier than others, but it all boils down to you still having to do all 3 of those stages 50 different times each for the quest, which is just boring. What they could have done in this update is made it so that for Broly, you had to maybe go find Gogeta or Goku and Vegeta around the map, and you have to go maybe challenge them and they'll spawn a boss. Or add in the Dragon Balls where you have to go and summon Shenron, and you have to get Shenron out before Gogeta kills Broly, or like kind of like on Anime Vanguard's how they did it, or something like a little bit different to the game modes. I like how they tried to come up with the destroy things around the map thing, but when you have people like Gilgamesh who just nuke everything on the map, no matter what it is, whether it be an enemy or an object, he just kills them no matter what. So there's no strategy behind them anyway. They just set you back a couple seconds before you get your second nuke out, and then they're gone, right? That's why I think instead they should have the interactive stuff, like with what's his name, Jin Mori's pillars that he summons, right? Maybe you as the player can go over and start punching them or something like that, like have like a little quick time event to destroy them, right? And then the quest have it so you have to win the quick time event like 10 times or something like that. It doesn't have to be something insanely complicated, just something different and a little bit more interactive for the player that doesn't make the average player be like, oh my god, this is too much and annoying. And it also makes the long time players like, okay, this is nice, I don't have to sit here in macro for 7 hours or something like that, right? It just lets them have more fun with the game while also not feeling like they're just wasting their time for a unit that is at the top of the tier list but doesn't even perform half as well as a unit from the past update or a couple updates. You know what I mean? Right? So that is definitely something they need to focus on and talk to people about. Even, like, I would be absolutely down to talk with the Anime Guardians team about this and give them some suggestions. I would not mind being like, being someone you come to ask for help, or even my community in general. As one of the previous managers, I don't know who it was exactly, but they did come in and they did tell people that they're working on new stuff. But hey, maybe they'll prove me wrong for this weekend update. Maybe everything I'm going to say and have said so far in this video will get fixed or have something put in place to help with the problem and push it in the right direction, which they already kind of did with the difficulty slider. The difficulty slider is a good improvement, it is, but you took 1 step forward and 3 steps back with it with the 50 run stage quests, right? Which is why, as I'm saying here, try and make some more unique quests that have the players doing more than just the same stage over and over and over again, Just add a little bit of difference to it. I mean, dude, you added 3 completely different characters, Jin Mori, Broly, and Shinra, that all have their own complete lore and, like, abilities and different tactics and stories behind them that you can incorporate into their quest line to make them feel like they're worth getting, and they're not just like, okay, I got them, they're okay, they just do like the same damage and they do some different abilities and stuff, right? Because like the character concepts themselves are cool, like the build up, the overheat, the rage mode for Broly, the cloning for Jin Mori, but they're just not good in comparison to Gilgamesh, who does literally everything in the game. And they're also just, their obtainments are really if not more boring than Gilgamesh, because for some of their obtainments you have to wait until the hour passes and then it switches to the other character. So if you wanted to get Jin Mori and you already have Broly, or like you already have Shinra and it's on the Broly quest, guess what? You're gonna have to wait an hour till Broly's is done and then an hour till Shinra's is done to come around and get to Jin Mori, which is cool. I like that concept, but there's just, like, once you get one character, there's nothing to do in between the other, right? And it's just coming down to, like, now you have to wait to set up your macro to go do something else, right? There's nothing to actively, constantly have you going and working towards the unit in any sense at all. There isn't, right? Which is why I said incorporate multiple different stages into the quest line, different things you have to go out and work towards, maybe smaller quests that are connected to being completed to get the final unit. Sorry guys, it's a little bit late for me right now when I'm recording this. Do you guys understand what I'm saying though? You guys kind of understand how the ALS problem is seeping into this game and has been for a while. It's just all macro. The units replace one another. Sometimes even when they don't, it's just you can use the same units, so there's no point in even playing the updates at all because some previous ones are just way stronger. And the new ones just aren't up to par to the overtuned units of the past. So, I mean, the One Punch Man update and the Halloween update had their characters not overthrown for what? Until recently, until Gilgamesh came out? I mean, dude, Gaara was one-shotting everything in the game until they introduced the difficulty slider. And that was in November, dude. It's 3 months later. Like, that's healthy, kind of, for the game. But when you're releasing units after them that aren't even up to snuff with what they can do, then there's no point, And there wasn't any challenging content until just this update itself to really test them in, So, what was overall the point of it, There's just... The game suffers from not having a purpose. No end goal in mind besides macro, get new character, macro, roll on that new character, macro for their stats, then you got a macro for the next, then the next, then the next. That's all it comes down to. There's no real gameplay. And they have good systems in place. They have the limit breaking system. They have the equipment, what's it called? The artifact system. I think that's cool. They have some very unique unit designs. The unit designs are fine, besides a little bit of tweaking and balancing to make the game a little bit less just instant nuke, instant nuke, instant nuke. But otherwise, the idea is there. They're just getting the units are just getting overtuned. So, yeah, they definitely need to focus on the quest lines and just character obtainments. That's what this game suffers from. There's no purpose other than character obtainments, and even then they're boring. Right. So, those are my opinions on it. I'm going to get into what people said in my Discord after I asked them about it. So, excuse me. Faithful Moon put in this suggestion, kind of like the one I already said. I feel like it's better to give the players a challenge because players have so many items stocked up. It makes everything so much easier to get. I feel like the game needs a nice but big long grind that isn't a macro fest. Back then with what AV did with Sung Jin Woo, except a little bit more fun, is how I would put it, right? The AV Sung Jin Woo grind sucked because of how boring and long it was, but with some tweaks to it, very possible to make a good questline out of that idea, right? What's it called? The next main suggestion I saw was remove the unibundles from Scoobs. A lot of people aren't liking the unibundles, Anime Guardians devs, because it makes you look like Anime Last Stand, Sure, your units are much higher quality and actually seem like they have much more effort put into them, especially because they're not just reskins of past units. They have their own unique mechanics and everything, especially like the cloning and stuff like that. Shinra's Overdrive, Broly's Rage. They're not ChatGPT passive units, but they are not worth $20. So having these bundles here is nice for the Nepo Baby players, but for average players and also making them limited, does not help the luck that you have, okay? So, I know it might make you some good money, but tweaking the game to make players want to play it more will make you much more money than these little saggy bundles will any day of the week. Truly they would, right? And you could say that because I don't know some of the things back behind the scenes, but I have seen games that just make passive income. I have insider knowledge that I'm not really allowed to talk about on some of this stuff, but I do have an idea of what's going on, okay? I have an idea of how money is made through DevX and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So I'm not a genius on it. I don't have personal hands-on experience of it, but I know kind of how it works and that you'll make pretty good amounts more money long-term by having more people just play your game than buy these $20 bundles every time an update comes out. You know what I mean? It's also going to give you a better community that's going to want to stay for your updates as well, right? It just will. Coming from Bobo the Hobo next is, we need more game modes that aren't either place the best unit and win, and that don't have 4,000 different things to make it annoying and not hard. Basically what I was saying before. The game modes with, like, the destroy stuff around the map is a good idea, but it doesn't work with how the units are built currently. So, with the total map nuke units, maybe have it so that, like, your strongest unit gets locked behind, like, a cage and, like, they're, like, chained or they're weakened or something like that, and then you have to go and defeat certain bosses within a certain time frame, or, like, you're on a time limit, or you have to place units like in the air, in like a certain range of the stuff that spawns around the map to actually deal damage to it, rather than just being at any place on the map being able to do it. You know what I mean? You just want to keep it. So I don't know why I was kind of mumbling right there on that. It was like my voice was leaving me. But like, you know, you don't want to, obviously you don't, if you want to keep it simple for players, that's fine. But you can make it simple and make it fun and interesting at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Oh, okay. So Natsu had said, game is way too easy. They need to make the game harder, more quest-like content, and just making pity for items, right? Because for him, it took him 250 manual runs for Saber because he's on mobile and he cannot macro, right? So this game is hellish for him, which is a fair point. It is a fair point. And I know some people don't like it when things are too difficult, which is where the difficulty slider comes into play. And what you can do with that difficulty slider now is that on these events, you can make it so that the higher the difficulty slider, not only does the boss HP go up and the stats go up, but it also, it maybe adds more, like one extra little gimmick you have to deal with. Like it'll permanently stun a unit, permanently lock someone, like a random part of your team. So you really have to build your team, be cautious about not bringing too many supports, bringing some more DPS rather than just one or two nukes. You know what I mean? Something that'll get the player to think a little bit more, but not be so annoying and too difficult for them to really deal with, but also make the rewards worthwhile. You know what I mean? The final main thing that I saw, I'm not going to read through everything in the chat. I did look at it earlier, but I'm really tired right now, and my head's a little bit out of wonk. But, oh, excuse me. Wesley had said, add interesting game modes that can also be quests for Guardian units and not just macro slop a stage 50 times because that is boring. Overall, make the game less of a macro fest and make it where you want to play manually, even if the grind is long. So basically what I said, make the quests more unique, more player interactive. It's like with AWTD. Sure, with that game, you know, you might have to do a ton of stages in general for a unit, but at least you're bouncing around all over the place, going to different stages for different items for all these different units. So you're not stuck looking at the same thing, watching like the same colored paint dry constantly. Sure, you're still watching paint dry, but at least you're watching a different color every now and then rather than the same blank white. You know what I mean? It's still not as great, it's not as good as a fix, but it's better. It's an improvement. And improvements lead to more improvements, lead to more wanting to improve, you know, wanting to get better, right? So I think that should be the most important thing to take into account. Increase the factors of the difficulty system, like multiple different, like stunning gimmicks and stuff like that. Definitely add those in, but you know, don't forget to also just make the quest lines more fun and variable. You know, that definitely needs to be something to be messed with, right? A little bit tweaked, and try not to be so rushy with updates. You don't have to do weekly updates if those weekly updates aren't going to be good and have a player base stay for that week. I mean, guys, not to say that 4,000 players is a bad number. It's not at all, you know, but okay, it might be a little bit low, but your game updated like a week ago, man, and you guys were averaging like 10-12K on update. You know what I mean? So, you know, if you want to keep that player base, you have to make the quest lines a little bit more long and enjoyable for those players so that they actually want to stay throughout the week and maybe go and grab some other stuff from the update too that they maybe didn't get to yet, you know? I think that would be much better and makes it seem like you're doing less just straight copy and pasting. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you devs have been watching till this ending part of the video I'm getting to right now, I appreciate you guys. You guys are listening to your community. You guys are actually taking feedback and not just blindly taking it and saying you will add it but never do. You guys are just try and listen to your community a little bit more. Try to get out of this macro fest that you're stuck in. I know you guys can do it. I know you can. You guys have a talented team that have been able to implement the right steps to get there. You just haven't gone all the way yet. So, yeah. Best of luck, everybody. please like and sub. And also, thank you guys. We just hit 3K subscribers. I mean, dude, we were at like what, 2,200, not even like a couple days ago. So you guys are the goats. Truly, I love you guys, all of you. Not in a sexual way or romance way. You guys, familial love. You guys are awesome. Thank you for all the support. And if you'd like to have some conversations with me, my other video viewers have been here for forever. Hop in the Discord. We have some great conversations in there, and all kinds of other stuff as well. So, thank you guys. Have an amazing rest of your day.